them. What do we mean when we talk about diversity? Is it caring for people's different experiences and making sure no one's mistreated because of them, which I will always fight for? Or is it making people sit through a training that looks like something out of Portlandia, which I have also experienced?
But I think he got that so wrong, and I think it was so tone deaf, considering what's going on, all of it.
Yasmin, Mark, and Cenk of the Young Turks take a look at Sunny Hostin of The View taking a swipe at comments Pete Buttigieg made about DEI, and I'd like to watch this video with you. I have some opinions to add as we go, and then I want to know what you think in the comments.
Democrats, especially progressive, often get criticized for being too into identity politics to the point that it can sometimes alienate otherwise would-be Democratic voters. What are your first impressions of this story?
I want to give credit to Sunny Hostin doing something that I thought was previously unimaginable. She's going to get me to defend Pete Buttigieg. So wait till you see what she says. And then I'm going to rip it to shreds because it's really disgusting. It's totally misleading her audience.
Cenk doesn't like Pete Buttigieg?
All right, let's watch it. Go ahead.
All right, so here's what Buttigieg said when asked how the Democrats can stop their critics from caricaturing them as overly focused on diversity. Take a look.
We believe in the values that we care about for a reason. And this is not about abandoning those values. It's about making sure we're in touch with the first principles that animate them. What do we mean when we talk about diversity? Is it caring for people's different experiences and making sure no one's mistreated because of them, which I will always fight for? Or is it making people sit through a training that looks like something out of Portlandia, which I have also experienced, and it is how Trump Republicans are made. If that comes to your workplace with the best of intentions, but doesn't actually get at what actually matters here, what's actually at stake.
Okay, so here is Sunny's response to Buttigieg.
I like Pete, of course, but I think he got that so wrong, and I think it was so tone deaf, considering what's going on, all of it. I thought all of it was tone deaf, because what happens is when from 1776 to 1965, you have basically white men in charge of everything, right? Women, people of color, we're left out of just equality of opportunity, that sort of thing. And I think when that equality starts popping up in terms of diversity program, equality now feels like oppression to those people who were at the top of the ladder, not necessarily because of their merit, but because of their identity, right? And so in my view, when you look at the stats, it is really clear from McKinsey, actually, a consulting firm that Pete used to work for, that firm found that companies with more diversity financially and socially outperform those that are less diverse. If the problem is these programs, what is the solution? Should we just then depend on the benevolence of Elon Musk and white billionaires to hire women and people of color?
No. Wait a minute. I don't think that's what Pete Buttigieg said. I mean, I don't disagree with her, but if she's still responding to Pete Buttigieg, that's not what he said. He's basically saying that it can be taken too far, right? And I think that's hard to argue with. Where you draw that line is up for debate, but.
Should we just depend on corporations to, on their own, make the workforce more diverse?
Okay, it seems to me that they're almost arguing two different points here. Buttigieg is saying that the Democrats have a messaging problem from what I'm taking away from this. I don't think he's saying to completely discount or disregard the fact that identity has a place in political discourse or that it impacts the lives of everyday Americans in very real ways. But let's be real, progressives, we're the ones who tend to be the ones who are most ready and willing to discuss these issues. And we can be exhausting for non-progressives, even sympathetic non-progressives, to be around. And if people don't want to be around you, then they don't want to hear what you have to say. They're not going to be open to your message, and they might think twice before aligning with you and your ideas politically. So it also leaves us vulnerable to petty attacks kind of from the right, who, to be fair, they also do regularly engage in identity politics, but in a different way. But while I think the goal on the left is to always encourage empathy and consideration for various marginalized groups, it can sometimes work to subdivide us within our overall common belief system. So Cenk, I know you have a lot to say about this. Let's hear it.
Yeah, so the reason I'm mad is not because of the statements that she made in the beginning. Those statements are generally speaking true. It's the straw man she set up afterwards. So I'm gonna come back to that in one sec. I'm sorry, I almost called him Elon Musk. Pete Buttigieg, that's how much I don't like the guy. When he says things like, we have to be in touch with the first principles that animate them. I know libs love stuff like that. Okay, like the New York crowd, oh my God, he's so educated. What a Harvard thing to say. No one talks like that. Stop supporting guys who cannot connect with the average guy.
Give me a break. Pete Buttigieg is able to take these complex thoughts and make them understandable. It's not a deficit. You could make that argument against Obama too, that, oh, look at the fancy words he uses. George W. Bush, who dumbed down the presidential to like a second or third grade reading level. How is that a good thing? Right? I mean, do you not understand the words that he's saying? Are they too complicated for you?
Like they think he's like, now he's trying to paint himself as a populist. Sunny Hostin's helping him when he says things like in touch with first principles that animate them. What does that mean? Okay, I know what it means, guys, but don't use language like that. All right, so
why?
I tell you that because I can't believe I'm agreeing with him, okay? And because he's at least smart enough to make the pivot. Whether he means it or not, he's making the pivot. What's the pivot? Is it to be against diversity, as Sunny Hostin is lying? Her straw man is, do we want diversity or do we want Elon Musk's benevolence to determine everyone?
Right.
Is that really the question, Sunny? Is that really the question? That's not the question. We're not even talking about diversity. We're talking about DEI programs. Everyone on the left, I presume, or it's close enough, and almost everyone that is in the middle believes in diversity. She says, oh, there's a McKinsey report that shows that diversity works. I don't need a McKinsey report. Of course diversity works. Hey, should I pick from a limited pool or should I pick from a broader pool? Hey, which way will I get more quality? Oh, right, if I pick from the broader pool, why would I eliminate black people or women or Asian people? That's crazy, that's dumb. Diversity, of course, works. Her point about 1776 to 1965 is true. That's why it's really interesting that we're in 1966. Oh, right, we're not in 1966. We're in the year 2025. So, okay, that was 60 years ago. Now, what happened since then? Affirmative action happened. In the beginning, it definitely should have happened. I think we should have eased out of it at some point. We can't keep judging people based on race forever. Otherwise, it defeats the whole point. But then, okay, that was affirmative action. Then we moved on to DEI. And here we've shown you some of the abuses. If you watch other left-wing shows, I don't know, maybe they're pretending that DEI is same thing as affirmative action or the same thing as diversity, but it isn't. It got comical, guys. That's why he mentioned the Portlandia skit. There's instances where a DEI representative would do the right thing and say, oh, now white women at this workplace are feeling uncomfortable because in some of these get-togethers where we're talking about diversity, that people will say, hey, it's not your turn to talk. And they don't mean in that order, they mean like ever. So your job here is to shut up and learn from minorities. So there was a story and then a woman says, hey, no, that's not the right way to go with DEI. She gets fired. No, that is the right way to go with DEI. No, the abuses were out of control, totally out of control. Like actual, I know it hasn't happened in forever, but it actually did happen recently of reverse racism. It's mental. And then this arrogant attitude that folks on our side have. Like, for example, they would say things like, it's not my job to teach you how to pronounce my name. How are they supposed to know how to pronounce Cenk Uygur when it's spelled with a C? Uygur, how the hell are you supposed to know how to? It's not my job to tell you how to pronounce. It is my job. If you have a name that's C-E-N-K and the C is pronounced like a J, it's your job to tell people, hey, that's Cenk. Not to be like, oh, you're racist for not knowing, you're racist. That's what DEI wound up being. So,
okay, dude, breathe.
Sorry if you don't like it. Sorry, my job is to tell you the truth. So it doesn't mean that every DEI program was terrible. I'm sure there were decent ones, etc. But did it go overboard and really, really piss off the average American? Yes. But Sunny doesn't tell you that. She lies to you and says, oh, anyone against DEI hates diversity, doesn't want black people to be hired, doesn't want women to be hired. They just want to rely on the benevolence of Elon Musk. What a pathetic straw man argument. So I hate that she's making me do this. Buttigieg is right. Mark.
Yeah, Buttigieg is right. And I feel like Sunny is the lib that everybody on the right and certainly in MAGA land wants to own, because that's just the kind of argument that angers those who are actually in the workplace and having to do the dance and live under DEI. DEI really is, sadly, something radioactive for Democrats, or politically radioactive for anyone to maintain. I think the Democrats would do well to deep six it and to find a different way to express that which they feel are the inequities of society. As Cenk said, there was affirmative action for a time. This is a far more nuanced world of workplace than is expressed in DEI. DEI will now, I think, do the Democrats and the opposition party, or independents, if you want to think of it without being party specific, it will do them no favors. And so defending it is a huge mistake. I understand Sunny's a talk show person and she's engaged in a back and forth, but Buttigieg is right on this. And you can see him beginning to start that backpedal that I'm sure he feels Democrats have to do. And he's right.
Mm-hmm.
What do you
think? I really want to get to this next story. What do you think?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I hear you. All right. Look, last thing I'll say real quick. Remember when the Republicans were all going on and on about critical race theory? That didn't stick. And I know why they're doing it, guys. They're trying to get you agitated to fight one another. And they want you to think, oh, black people are getting special privileges, minorities are getting special privileges. So they tried it with affirmative action, then they moved on to critical race theory. And the reason critical race theory didn't stick is because nobody had any idea what the hell they were talking about. And they made it up, and they were just grasping at straws, right? Yeah, it's taught in graduate schools, who cares? Once they got to DEI, ding, 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 the whole place lit up. Why? Because a lot of people deal with that at work, and then they get these things that are like, wait, I'm not allowed to say anything? I have different rights now than other people? Oh my God, I hate this.
It's also something that I did recently, another clip that Elon Musk touched on, is he said, the Democrats or the liberals have tried to make comedy illegal, which is absurd and not funny. But if you take the sort of DEI initiative stuff to its extreme, it's humorless. So you can say that diversity is a good thing, and you can say that I agree that diversity is a great thing, but it's not something you can teach with just a video. You have to start somewhere, so it's a complicated problem to solve. But there wasn't a lot of, it felt like a minefield. Feels. If somebody is really, really defensive about it and stiff about it, people use humor to kind of, find places to relate with each other. But this is no laughing matter. It puts a real curse on it. I understand it's a serious issue, but we have to be able to talk about things frankly, and we have to be able to laugh at how awkward it feels sometimes together. And I think that's the kind of end of things that it started to feel like it had come full circle around to a sort of a fascist mandate of like what you can and cannot think, what you can and cannot say, and yeah, I can understand why people would resist that.
And that's why DEI is not diversity. And it's not just like some rando attack against minorities. I'm a minority. If they were doing a random attack on minorities, I would fight. It's not like I'm shy. It's not like I don't know how to fight back, right? So no, Mark's absolutely right. We're done with DEI. Let's go. Let's get to actual diversity and actual equality. Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
and I think what else is interesting about DEI is that it really started off as something completely different from what it became. I think the intention behind it was completely different. It started off, if I'm not mistaken, as an initiative for different businesses to just be more transparent about the things that they were doing in their companies. And Republicans didn't like that transparency because they said that now consumers were going to make certain decisions about whether or not they wanted to patronize certain businesses based on how diverse they were. So they felt public pressure to be more diverse and more equitable and more inclusive, and they didn't like that. And then it became something more, but really, like at its core, that's just capitalism. That's just how capitalism functions, right? You get to choose, you have options, you have competitors. So as a consumer, you get options as far as how you want to spend your money, where you want to spend your money, that kind of thing. And yeah, I think Cenk is absolutely right as far as people felt it more personally. People had to go to certain trainings, and those trainings are not helpful. Everyone knows it, right? Nobody likes them. So yeah, I agree with my issue with the whole segment was that Sunny Hostin and Pete Buttigieg seem to be talking about two completely different things. Sunny, I think, tried really hard to make a point, but I think she missed all of Pete Buttigieg's point when she was trying to rebut him, and I don't think it worked. So
I agree. What do you think? Let me know what you think in the comments.